Original post. To give you some background, I'm a 34-year-old guy. I started out as a standard software engineer, but in my late 20s, I took a massive risk and transitioned into running my own boutique tech consulting firm. I spent the better part of my youth grinding. I'm talking grueling, soul-crushing 80-hour work weeks, surviving entirely on instant ramen, cheap coffee, and pure anxiety. But the sacrifice paid off. By the time I hit 30, I had built real, undeniable wealth. Through that blood and sweat, I managed to acquire a beautiful, fully renovated 4-bedroom suburban home, a peaceful lake house for our weekend getaways, and 2 highly profitable, cash-flowing rental properties. I thought I had secured the American dream. Then there's my wife, Chloe, 32F. We've been married for 5 years. She is charming, incredibly sharp, and for the longest time, I genuinely believed she was my ultimate teammate in life. Because I loved her blindly, I made sure she wanted for absolutely nothing. I entirely funded a luxury lifestyle for her, high-end international travel, fine dining at Michelin-starred restaurants, designer clothes, and total financial comfort. If she wanted it, she got it. No questions asked. Enter Dave, 33M. Dave is Chloe's close friend from their university days. To put it bluntly, the guy is a smug, overly manicured, high-end family law attorney who just exudes pure, unadulterated arrogance. He has this incredibly annoying habit of constantly dropping by our house unannounced, taking up way too much space on my couch, and confidently drinking my finest, most expensive small batch bourbon. The guy has never brought a single bottle of his own to share, yet he treats my bar cart like his personal open bar. I tolerated him because of his history with Chloe, but he always rubbed me the wrong way. About 6 months ago, everything changed. The warmth completely drained out of my marriage, almost overnight. It felt like a freezing cold front had instantly hit our relationship. Chloe suddenly stopped being affectionate altogether. She entirely pulled away from any physical contact, and she started making pathetic excuses to sleep on the absolute far edge of the bed, as if touching me would make her sick. Around the exact same time, she began aggressively guarding her phone. She always kept it face down on tables, constantly changed her lock screen passwords, and would literally take it into the bathroom with her just to brush her teeth for 2 minutes. Then came the suspicious girls' nights out. She developed a new routine of frequent, late-night outings with her friends that would last until 2 o'clock or 3 a.m. Whenever I politely asked who she was out with or if she was having fun, she would flip the script and get highly defensive. She'd look at me with disgust and accuse me of being insecure, controlling, and suffocating her independence. So I backed off, trying to give her space. But then her behavior took an even weirder turn, a subtle financial interrogation. Chloe suddenly developed an intense, hyper-specific interest in my business operations and real estate holdings. Out of nowhere, she started casually slipping heavy, legalistic questions into our casual dinner conversations. She'd ask things like, "Hey babe, where exactly do you keep the deeds to the rental properties? Or what is the current valuation of your software firm after the latest audit? And are our personal and business bank accounts fully separated, just in case of a tax audit?" Whenever I looked at her skeptically, she would cover her tracks flawlessly with a sweet, disarming smile, claiming she was just trying to be a responsible partner and plan for our early retirement. But the timing of this sudden financial curiosity felt deeply unsettling, especially given how emotionally detached and cold she was being. The accidental discovery happened this past lazy Sunday afternoon. It was the moment my entire world blew up. I was working on some files at the kitchen island, and I happened to dust off an old iPad that I hadn't used in months. Because it was still actively synced to the home Wi-Fi and tightly linked to our shared family account ecosystem, notification bubbles suddenly started aggressively popping up on the screen in rapid succession. I looked down and noticed it was an active, real-time iMessage thread. The contact name pinned to the top of the screen sent a shiver down my spine. It was Dave. I opened it. The sickening sensation that followed is something I will never forget. As I scrolled through the chat logs, I realized my entire life was a carefully constructed lie. The messages explicitly proved that Chloe and Dave were sleeping together. They were mocking me behind my back, laughing at how clueless I was, and carrying on an affair right under my nose. But honestly, worse than the physical betrayal was the financial malice. Dave was actively using his professional expertise as a ruthless divorce lawyer to systematically coach my own wife on how to bleed me dry in a future court battle. Then, I hit the smoking gun text message. It was a block of text from Dave that literally made my heart stop beating for a second. He wrote, "Don't trigger him yet. Let him finish the Q3 business expansion so the valuation spikes. Then we hit him with the papers. You'll walk away with the lake house, half the business, and permanent alimony. He won't know what hit him. Just keep playing the part for a few more months, babe." Chloe's reply right beneath it read, "It's getting hard to look at him, but I'm holding out for that lake house. See you Tuesday, hugs and kisses." A raw, violent rush of adrenaline hit me like a freight train. My hands started shaking uncontrollably, my chest felt completely tight, and a physically nauseous wave crashed over my stomach. I had an overwhelming, primal urge to scream at the top of my lungs, smash the kitchen furniture into kindling, throw all of her designer clothes onto the front lawn, and wait by the door to violently confront both of them the second they stepped foot inside. But right as I felt myself losing control, something shifted inside me. The panic subsided, and a freezing, unyielding anger took over. I realized that throwing a temper tantrum was exactly what they wanted. Confronting a high-end, corrupt family law attorney on his own turf with zero legal protection would be absolute suicide. If I reacted emotionally, Dave would immediately use my anger to get a restraining order, boot me out of my own house, and ruin my reputation in court. I didn't need an outburst. I needed a strategy. I forced myself to breathe. I meticulously took crystal-clear screenshots of every single message in that thread, emailed them to a brand new, secure, hidden email account I created on the spot, and then deleted all evidence of my viewing from the iPad. I placed the tablet exactly back where I had found it. About an hour later, Chloe walked through the front door, acting totally normal, and casually asked how my day was. I looked her dead in the eye, forced a calm, pleasant expression onto my face, and smiled gently. "My day was absolutely fine, sweetie," I said. "They think they are playing checkers, but they have absolutely no idea I've just set up the entire chessboard. I've already booked an emergency consultation with a forensic accountant and a top-tier asset protection attorney for tomorrow morning. Wish me luck, everyone. I'll keep you guys posted on how this unfolds." Update. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for all the advice and support in the comments on my last post. Reading your replies really kept me sane over the last few months while I was living through an absolute nightmare. A lot of you warned me to be smart, stay calm, and let the professionals handle it. Well, I took that advice to heart. Here is what happened next. The very morning after I found those texts, I met with my new lawyer, Sarah. Let me tell you, Sarah is an absolute shark. She's a senior partner at a high-end firm, incredibly sharp, and has a reputation for eating sleazy lawyers for breakfast. When I showed her the screenshots of Chloe and Dave's iMessage thread, I saw a terrifying smile spread across her face. Sarah genuinely detests dirty attorneys who abuse their position, and Dave had just handed her the ammunition to destroy him. Sarah sat me down and explained the reality of the law. She told me frankly, "Look, if you just hide your money, pull cash out of ATMs, or transfer houses to your buddies to look poor, the judge will see right through it and penalize you heavily. You can't commit fraud. But, and this is our massive advantage, Chloe hasn't filed for divorce yet. She is waiting to trap you. Because we have ironclad, time-stamped proof of her intent to commit financial fraud and collude with her attorney lover to bleed you dry. We have a window of opportunity to legally protect your assets." From that moment on, we began making our chess moves. First, we looked at the real estate. Years ago, when I first started my tech consulting firm, my fiercely loyal parents had given me a formal, documented private loan to help with initial cash flow. We had never officially dissolved that agreement. Sarah utilized this pre-existing debt to create a legal obligation. At the same time, I reached out to a trusted childhood friend who operates a real estate investment firm out of state. I legally sold my 2 rental properties to his out-of-state LLC. Because the properties were sold to satisfy sudden, urgent business debts tied to my parents' old loan and corporate liabilities, the transaction was entirely legitimate on paper. I sold them at a legally defensible but highly discounted market rate. The properties were out of my name, and the cash generated was immediately swallowed up by valid corporate debts. Next was my software business, which was the primary target Dave wanted to split. To tank its valuation safely and legally, I initiated a massive corporate restructuring. I took out a huge, entirely legitimate commercial bank loan to fund a brand new, highly speculative research and development project overseas. On paper, this instantly shifted my thriving company from a highly profitable asset to a heavily leveraged, debt-ridden entity. The current valuation of the business plummeted to practically worthless because of the massive liabilities now sitting on our books. Finally, I cut off the cash flow. I stopped depositing my bi-weekly paychecks into our joint bank account. Instead, I diverted them into a brand new, separate account at an entirely different bank. When Chloe noticed and asked where the money was, I looked her in the eye and lied flawlessly. I told her the business was facing a severe, temporary cash flow crunch due to a lost client, and that I had to reinvest my salary back into the company just to keep the lights on. What followed was 4 months of absolute psychological torture. Living with the enemy is a form of mental exhaustion I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Every single day, I had to play the part of the oblivious, loving husband. I had to kiss her goodbye in the morning, eat dinner with her at night, and ask her how her day was, all while knowing she was sleeping with another man and plotting my financial ruin. It got even worse when we hosted Dave for dinner. He still had the nerve to come over and drink my bourbon. I had to sit across the table from him and watch him smirk at me. He would drop these passive-aggressive, arrogant hints, looking right at Chloe and saying things like, "Man, the tech market is just so volatile these days, isn't it? A lot of guys are losing everything. That's why wives need real security. They need assets that don't just disappear." I would just nod, swallow my rage, and pretend to look worried. In fact, I played the role of the stressed, failing businessman perfectly. I stopped buying new things. I started wearing older, slightly wrinkled clothes around the house. I constantly sighed at the kitchen table, stared blankly at my laptop, and complained loudly about losing major clients. I even let the house get a little unkempt to sell the depression. Chloe and Dave took the bait hook, line, and sinker. They genuinely believed I was spiraling and losing my grip on reality. They watched my business struggle and decided they needed to strike immediately before the assets depreciated any further. They thought they were catching me at my absolute weakest. The trap finally sprang on a rainy Tuesday evening. I came home from work to find a strange man standing on my front porch. He stepped forward, asked my name, and handed me a thick envelope. I had officially been served with divorce papers. I walked into the living room, and there was Chloe. She was standing next to a fully packed suitcase, looking incredibly smug, wearing a designer coat I had bought her. And right next to her, leaning against my mantel, was Dave. He wasn't acting like a family friend anymore. He was standing there proudly as her legal counsel. Dave stepped forward and delivered a speech so arrogant it felt like it belonged in a movie. He looked down his nose at me and said, "Well, buddy, we can do this the hard way, or we can do this the easy way. The writing is on the wall. Your business is tanking, and Chloe deserves a stable future. If you sign over the lake house, 50% of your company's shares, and the primary suburban residence, we can settle this quietly. If you don't, I will personally drag your failing company through a highly public court battle, and I will make sure you walk away with absolutely nothing." What's it going to be? Instead of fighting back, I put on a masterclass performance of a broken, defeated man. I let my shoulders slump. I dropped the envelope on the floor. I practically begged and pleaded with them. "Chloe, please, we can work this out," I stammered, making my voice shake as if I were on the verge of tears. "Don't do this to me. The business is all I have left. If you take the houses, I'll be ruined." Dave actually laughed out loud, a cruel, condescending sound. Chloe didn't even look sad. She just stared at me with pure, unadulterated disgust, as if I were a pathetic insect. "Sign the papers when your lawyer looks them over, block my number, and talk to Dave from now on," she said coldly. They grabbed her bags and walked out the front door, sharing a triumphant look. They genuinely thought they had just won the lottery. A few weeks later, the formal discovery phase of the divorce began. Dave, feeling incredibly confident, sent over an aggressive legal demand for all of my financial disclosures, fully expecting to see a goldmine of hidden wealth he could squeeze out of me. So, Sarah and I sent over the ultimate reality check. The financial disclosures we produced were a work of absolute legal art. The documents clearly showed that the rental properties had been legally sold months prior to satisfy valid corporate debts. The paperwork showed that my boutique consulting firm was currently sitting on over $400,000 of legitimate debt due to the massive commercial R&D loans. And finally, the bank statements revealed that our joint bank account, the one Chloe expected to draw a massive settlement from, had an exact balance of just $2,300. But we didn't stop there. Along with the financial disclosures, Sarah dropped a nuclear bomb right onto Dave's desk. She filed a formal motion to the family court exposing Dave and Chloe's long-term romantic relationship. Attached to the motion were the crystal-clear iMessage logs from the iPad, a detailed timeline of their affair, and hotel receipts I had quietly tracked over the months. Alongside the court motion, Sarah filed a massive, formal ethics complaint directly to the State Bar Association against Dave, citing a severe conflict of interest, gross professional misconduct, and deliberate collusion with a client to defraud a spouse. The fallout was instantaneous. At exactly 2 a.m. that night, my phone started exploding. It was Chloe. I answered, and she was in a state of absolute, hysterical panic. She was screaming so loud the audio was clipping through the speaker. She was crying, hyperventilating, and shrieking that I had ruined her life, that Dave was completely losing his mind, and that his entire career was flashing before his eyes. She demanded to know what I had done to the money and how I could be so cruel. I listened to her scream for about 10 seconds. I didn't get angry. I didn't gloat. I just took a deep breath and said in the calmest, most boring tone imaginable, "I don't know what you're talking about, Chloe. The numbers don't lie. I'll see you in court." And I hung up the phone. Final update. It's all over. The judge signed the final decree, and the dust has officially settled. Honestly, it went worse for them than I could have ever dreamed in my wildest fantasies. Watching the absolute implosion of their lives from a front row seat was the most satisfying experience of my life. Let's start with the total destruction of Dave. As it turns out, the State Bar Association takes things like sleeping with a client, collusion, and actively weaponizing legal expertise to defraud a spouse incredibly seriously. When Sarah submitted the mountain of text logs showing Dave explicitly plotting to manipulate asset discovery, the disciplinary committee moved with terrifying speed. It didn't take long for Dave's high-end law firm to find out about the massive scandal and the pending ethics investigation. To save their own elite reputation, the senior partners didn't even hesitate. They fired him immediately and scrubbed his name from their website before the week was out. Dave went from making a cozy, arrogant six-figure salary to being an unemployed pariah overnight. He is currently facing potential disbarment, and his reputation in the local legal community is completely radioactive. No firm will touch him with a 10-foot pole. Then came the courtroom reality check for Chloe. If she thought she was going to play the victim, she was severely mistaken. When we finally stood before the judge, Sarah presented the chronological timeline of Chloe's infidelity, bad faith, and her clear, documented intent to bleed me dry. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with a reputation for fairness, looked down at Chloe with utter, unadulterated contempt. Chloe's legal team tried to argue that my recent asset transfers and business restructuring were fraudulent, but Sarah shut them down instantly with ironclad proof. Because the rental properties were sold under a valid, pre-existing debt agreement, and the massive business debt was tied to a legitimate, operating R&D expansion, the court ruled that everything was entirely legal and above board. There was literally nothing for her to take. Furthermore, due to her egregious conduct, blatant bad faith, and the fact that she holds a capable working degree, the judge completely denied her request for alimony. Instead, Chloe was awarded exactly half of the remaining joint bank account, which amounted to a pathetic $1,150, and the keys to her heavily financed luxury car, a vehicle she can no longer afford the monthly payments on. As for where they are now, the contrast is almost comical. Chloe had to immediately move out of our beautiful suburban home and give up her luxury lifestyle. She is currently living in a cramped, dark, low-rent apartment on the bad side of town, working a stressful, entry-level corporate job she absolutely hates just to afford groceries and gas. And remember Dave? Well, there's a little detail I left out of part 2. Turns out, smug little Dave was married this entire time, too. During the discovery phase, I made sure to anonymously pass along the entire mountain of iMessage logs and hotel receipts to his wife. She immediately filed for divorce, hired a shark of her own, and completely took him to the cleaners. Since he has no income and lost his assets in his own divorce, Dave is currently living in his parents' basement at 33 years old. Unsurprisingly, Chloe and Dave's epic romance instantly died under the crushing weight of poverty, public humiliation, and mutual ruin. They don't look at each other like soulmates anymore. They now bitterly blame each other for the absolute disaster their lives have become. As for me, I am doing better than ever. That massive business loan I took out was successfully utilized to launch our overseas R&D project, which has completely taken off and doubled our company's net worth. As for the rental properties I sold to my childhood friend, now that the final divorce decree is signed, they are currently in the process of being legally transferred back into my name under a secure, private asset trust. Right now, I am typing this while sitting on the deck of my beautiful, fully protected lake house. The sun is setting over the water, the air is crisp, and I am slowly sipping a glass of the exact brand of expensive, small-batch bourbon that Dave used to steal from my bar cart. Only this time, I don't have to share a single drop.